Here's my point, everybody. There is a very tight correlation between the claims made by Thomas Jefferson, which are the foundations of our liberal democracy, and the claims of religion. I'm recording these words on July the 6th, so a couple days after July 4th, and you know, it's a time in our country that we've been going through a sort of a cultural convulsion. And, you know, deep concerns about the nature of our country, deep concerns about the relationship between religion and society. A lot of it focused, especially out here in California, around Junipero Serra and statues of him. So this whole moment, I'd like to address, but to do so by stepping back quite a ways and broadening the focus a bit. With July 4th in mind, can I bring us back to, by all accounts, the very humid and muggy summer of 1776 in Philadelphia, and to a little room in a boarding house where this young Virginia lawyer was preparing an important document. Jefferson writes, and the words are so familiar to us because they're part of our really secular scripture. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. As I say, they're so familiar to us that we often don't aver to really how revolutionary those words are. Look at the first sentiment. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Self-evident that all people are equal. Really? How? How are we equal? Are we equal in strength? Are we equal in physical beauty? Are we equal in virtue? Are we equal in talent? Are we equal in capacity? I don't know, show me one category where all people are equal. Last time I checked, people look pretty much unequal across the board. Now, press it. You read the classical political philosophers, people like Aristotle, Plato, Cicero. You find that their sense of a just political order is predicated upon our radical inequality. Think of in Plato's Republic that we all read in Philosophy 101. Plato sees three different types of people. You know, there's the ordinary kind of working class, there's this, what he calls the spirited or military class, then there's the governing class, the aristocrats. The right ordering of the society depends upon acknowledging these deep inequalities that obtain within a society, and people staying in their right place conduces toward justice. It's maybe even clearer in Plato's disciple, Aristotle. For Aristotle, only a handful of people were worthy of participating in what he called the public life. The vast majority of people, he felt, because they weren't at the level of intellectual or moral attainment necessary, had to stay at the household level, the level of the private life. And let me make a final observation about Aristotle, because this argument of his was used in our country all the way up into the Civil War. Some people are so disposed by nature that they are properly enslaved, that their level of intellectual or moral attainment is so low that they are properly at the level of slaves. Now, what makes a right political order is precisely now the inequality that obtains within the society. Okay, here's the interesting question. How would it have struck Plato, Aristotle, Cicero as self-evident that people are not equal? How do we get from there to Thomas Jefferson in the 18th century saying it's self-evident that they are equal? Can I make a suggestion? Something happened in between those classical authors and Thomas Jefferson. And it's suggested by a little word that usually just kind of slides right through our mind. Revisit Jefferson. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Again, we often don't even avert that word, but it makes all the difference. We are unequal across the board. But what's the one area in which we are truly equal? We are equally children of God. Now, take God out of the equation. God is not important. We don't believe in God. What's going to dominate now is our inequality. Doubt me? Look at the totalitarianisms of the last century. Look at these systems from Hitler's Germany to Stalin's Russia to Mao's China to Pol Pot's Cambodia to Castro's Cuba that systematically denied the existence of God. What you find pretty quickly is a denial of fundamental human equality. Okay, look at the next part of Jefferson's famous prologue. They are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, inalienable rights. Go back to classical political thought. Go back to our friends Cicero, Plato, Aristotle. Would they have held that all people have inalienable rights? Absolutely not. Again, for Plato, it's a high elite in the society that has special prerogatives and rights and privileges. The rest of the people should, do what they're told. Aristotle, no way that everyone's got inalienable rights. No, a little privileged elite has rights. Maybe if some of the privileged folks decide to give rights, for whatever reason, okay. But that everyone has them inalienably? Absolutely not. Again, look at Jefferson. Something happened between the classical people and him, and the giveaway is right there, but we usually don't even advert to it. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Where do they come from? The universality of our rights. They come from the fact that the Creator has given them to us. Mind you, take the Creator out of the equation, as you find in the great totalitarianisms of the last century. What do you find when God is bracketed? Very quickly, the rights of people evanesce. They are very quickly alienated. They're alienable. Here's my point, everybody. There is a very tight correlation between the claims made by Thomas Jefferson, which are the foundations of our liberal democracy, and the claims of religion. That's not pious boilerplate, what you find in Jefferson. No, that's providing the theoretical ground and context for the political claims. Take God out of that equation, and the foundation of liberal democracy gives way. Okay, having seen all that, and my focus has been on the east coast of our continent, on Philadelphia, on the English colonies, that part of our history. Can I invite you to go in imagination now, at the very same time, 1776, travel across the continent to the area now where I'm sitting. I'm here in Santa Barbara, California. Right in this area, right at that time, there was a little, they say he's no more than 5'2". There was a little Franciscan friar from Majorca in Spain who was planting missions up and down the California coast. I'm talking about Junipero Serra. In fact, it's very interesting. Days before the Declaration of Independence was ratified, I think it was on June the 28th or 29th, 1776, Serra founds a mission called San Francisco de Asís, St. Francis of Assisi. It's the place from which the great city of San Francisco eventually emerged. Serra was, in this part of the continent, evangelizing. He was proclaiming the gospel. He was propagating belief in God. At the same time when Jefferson was articulating the principles of liberal democracy on the other side of the continent. My point is, there's a very interesting connection and correlation between what was happening on these two coasts. Beware when people want to drive a wedge between liberal democracy and belief in God. They are not repugnant to each other. In fact, they are mutually implicative. Can I suggest a good way to start thinking about some of the complex issues facing us is to see this correlation between these two flawed but fascinating figures, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, Thomas Jefferson and Junipero Serra. What they were talking about were part of the same thought space. Serra's evangelism, at least indirectly, is the ground of the principles that Jefferson's talking about. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to share it and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.